Hello and good evening. Welcome to members and guests of the Wine Society this evening, and a very happy International Grenache Day to you all. This is the 16th edition of that day, started in 2010. I believe one of our growers, Chester Osborne, amongst others down in Darrenburg, was amongst the first to decide that this grape definitely deserved a day. My name is Ewan Murray, Events Manager at the Wine Society, and I'm joined this evening by our Director of Wine, Pierre Mansour. Good evening, Pierre.
Hi, Ewan. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, actually. And I have to admit, I am a self-confessed Garnacha nut. I think that's probably why I've been invited to chat to Ewan about Garnacha Grenache, because I adore the grape variety.
That's great. I think hopefully we've got a lot of Garnacha files or whatever the official word is. So that's introductions over. Just to let you know that many of you have been here before and done events with us, but as the event goes on, you're welcome to use the chat function to let us know what you're drinking, what you're maybe eating with it, any of your comments, and if you have any questions as we go along, then do those as well. This is being recorded for posterity and also for use on our YouTube channel for others to join in who can't make it tonight. So I hope you're strapped in for what promises to be a fun evening of discussion and certainly four rather delicious wines that we'll be trying. I can see we've already got Peter in West Sussex, who's got the whole of tonight's set, plus a Muga Rioja Rosado, which is great. And we've got Richard in Suffolk, who's got the Terra Alta, the first wine, and as John in Cornwall. So people from all over joining us. So that's great. Pierre, I have to say, I mean, you are a self-confessed Grenache nut. I remember way back when you were buying for Spain and you bought our very first wine of this evening back then. What is it that you feel? What does Grenache bring to the party? Why is it that you love it so?
Yeah, I think I guess so for me. So my first step into Spanish wine, like so many, probably most of us, was through Rioja. But yeah, my true kind of love affair with Spain kind of began with Garnacha. And back in the sort of 2000s, when I was lucky, I was given Spain to buy for the Wine Society. And as I kind of started exploring Spain, I was just bowled over by the quality and variety that I was tasting from Garnacha wines. And, really, this is an underrated grape. It's the third most grown grape in Spain. Tempranillo is number one. The second one is Bobal, which is quite a kind of workhorse grape variety. But Tempranillo is always seen as the kind of the queen of Spain when it comes to grape varieties. But the Garnachas that I was trying, just really impressed me. And I think what struck me most was that there was this kind of common thread running through the very best ones that I tried. And that was that they were all being made by kind of a younger generation of winemakers who were really obsessed with creating wines that truly reflected their place. And bear in mind that Spain is an area where many of the famous wines, Rioja is a good example of this. A lot of the wine quality is down to the influence of the winemaker and how they age the wine. But Garnacha was being taken on by winemakers who wanted to kind of take a step aside from being intervening in making the wine and just making something that really reflected and had the purity of the kind of the place, as I said. And the other thing that surprised me was just how some of the wines were so subtle and understated. And again, I think I had this preconception with Spain of, it's a hot country and the red wines are all about power and concentration. And of course, there are Garnachas made in that style that are very, very good. and we have plenty of those on our range. But I was just taken aback by this sort of more innovative streak of these kind of fresh, vibrant, quite floral, perfumed, silky styles of Garnacha. And there was one producer that really symbolized that for me. And actually, we're not trying those wines today, but members who are watching today and members who are watching the recording of this, I think will be very familiar with Vinya Zorzal, which is a producer that I took on when I started buying Spain, and now we do a lot of their wines. And they were one of the first in the country to start to kind of look at old vineyards of Garnacha, and just make the wines really simply, and they were just pretty and beautiful and kind of, yeah. So that's a very long-winded answer, but it kind of was, yeah, it's what it symbolized was it sort of symbolized this kind of new wave in Spain, and not least the styles of those fresh, pure Garnachas are wines we like to drink at home. We really enjoy drinking those styles at home.
Yeah, I think we certainly do as well. I think you're right. Historically, of course, I think Garnacha is allegedly, the Spanish will tell you, particularly the Aragonese, is a Spanish grape. So
Yes.
we often talk about Grenache, but actually it should be Garnacha, unless, of course, you are from Sardinia. Because in which case, because the Sardinia at one stage was part of the dukedom or kingdom of Aragon, and the Sardinians, who call the grape Cannonau, were they insisted actually it was a Sardinian grape that was exported to Spain. But whatever it comes from, it's definitely Aragonese in its origins. And sort of,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
interesting reading up the history of the variety as it's sort of, as the Kingdom of Aragon crept north and over the Pyrenees and into the Roussillon, the Languedoc temporarily, and then further down south, down towards Valencia and Alicante and that sort of thing. It's interesting watching the influence of Grenache or Garnacha spread around. So maybe what we need to do to sort of maybe start illustrating some points about Garnacha itself. We'll start off with the Garnacha, which is the El Mago from here. Pierre's got his bottle. There we go.
Yeah.
I've got my bottle here too. There we go. Except I think mine's coming back to front, but there we go. So Pierre, maybe you could kickstart us off. Tell us a little bit about Frank Massard, who's a mate
Yes.
of yours, I believe, and about his wines.
Yeah. So Frank has kind of been making wines since about 2004. And actually, Frank's background is not winemaking. His background is in wine service. So he was a sommelier, and in fact, in 1996 was crowned best sommelier in the UK. He's a very, very good taster. Him and I studied the Master of Wine together. We both failed, but I think he, like me, passed all of the tasting exams. Yeah, really, really good taster. But decided after working as a sommelier, he went back. He went to Spain, and bought a small vineyard in Priorat in Catalonia. And that kind of became the sort of foundation of a project that has since expanded into other regions, including Montsant, Terra, Alta, both DOs within Catalonia. And El Mago is from Terra Alta, which is, it's about an hour and a bit drive from Barcelona, high up in the hills. Produces fantastic white wines from white Grenache, but also makes this lovely kind of vibrant, subtle, lighter style of Garnacha, which the El Mago is. I love the label. I think the label is one of his children that drew that label. It's the label he's had since he started this wine. Frank's philosophy really centers on organic farming. So this is an organic wine, or made from organic grapes. And yeah, this is that style of Spanish Garnacha that I alluded to in at the beginning, that really I just love, because it's just so joyful. It's simple. It's not pretending to be anything grand, but you can't help but just get pleasure from drinking it. You know, it's a fruit-driven wine, lovely kind of red fruit character, quite juicy and succulent, which is typical of Garnacha, low in tannin, with sort of moderate, sort of crisp acidity. Depending on where you are in the UK, I didn't check the weather for the rest of the UK, but certainly here in Hertfordshire, we've got perhaps the last summery day of the year. It's 25 degrees, beautiful blue skies, and actually, this is the kind of red wine that I think works really well, just slightly chilled. So I put my bottle, I put it into the freezer for about 15 minutes, and it just slightly chilled, what I'd call sort of cellar temperature. And I think it works really well with a wine like this, particularly on an evening like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Not sure Karen, who's in a drizzly North Wales, would agree, but I'm sorry about
Ah.
that, Karen. But yes, it's a lovely one. It's just got a vibrancy to it, hasn't it? Just
Mm.
got a vibrancy and I'm looking at, I mean, the alcohol's 13.5, so it's not overly high, but it just, for me, it's all in balance. I've got a question from Colin, who's saying, is it whole bunch? Is it carbonic? He's kind of getting hints of Beaujolais, but in a good way.
Yeah. So I on the whole bunch, I don't know the answer. Um, Carbonic, I don't believe there's any carbonic maceration, but I completely agree that it is very, very similar in the same sort of drinking experience you get from Beaujolais. So I think Garnacha made like this, Gamay, certain Pinot Noirs as well, are all in the same kind of spectrum of kind of flavor experiences. Yeah, but I don't think this has had any carbonic maceration, but I can
No,
understand
I'm
why.
having a quite quick look at the text sheet, and it talks
Yeah,
about fermented for 1 week and then drawn off its skins after 6 days. So it's not talking about whole bunch
no,
or any carbonic
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
and the like. So, but yeah, I think you're right, and I think what I like about this wine is that most of it's fermented in stainless steel, but some of it is fermented in very old oak. So you've just
yeah,
got a little bit of micro oxygenation just bringing, that happens in that way. It's not affording any oak or any wood influence at all, but just getting that little extra bit of sort of depth that gives as well, which is fantastic.
yeah. It's these are the kind of wines that, if I had a restaurant, this would be my house red. You just
Mm.
know that lots of people are going to enjoy drinking this, whether you're just a wine drinker that drinks wine because it's alcohol, or whether you are people like us who are quite into wine. Both those groups would, you just can't help but have a smile on your face when you take a sip of this wine. I love its uncomplicated nature.
Yeah, I've got some pictures up here of the Grenache hanging around, and Frank doing some picking in the harvesting from just about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Actually, I think it's been quite an early harvest. It's been quite warm down there, but the condition of those grapes looks absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, it does look fabulous, doesn't it?
And then there's a picture of the bottle for those who haven't got the bottle with them. That wizard, El Mago. So yeah, I think his son designed it. Found a picture of a wizard in a picture book and sort of added some stars and the like. His son. So El Mago. Not only does it mean the wizard, but he quite likes the fact that he has two children, Maya and Hugo. So the MA from Maya and the GO from Hugo make El Mago as well. So
Oh, yes, of course. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
lovely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it says organic agriculture. Do you know how long he's been organic?
I don't actually know, not off the top. I think fairly early on actually. It was always, yeah, I'm pretty sure quite early on. I mean, one of the, Spain has I think one of, if not the highest number of organic vineyards in Europe. And that's partly because actually doing organic in a climate that Spain has is actually a lot easier than other countries around the world, because they don't get so much disease pressure. They don't get, the benign weather means that yeah, it's much easier. The,
Mm.
I know that we're not trying any, but while we're in Spain, I just thought I'd mention a couple of things. Obviously, Garnacha is grown all over Spain, um, and you get quite distinct styles. Down in southern Spain, in the Levante, makes really kind of big, rich, powerful, concentrated, with more sort of black fruit, slightly herby characters. But there's also a really interesting region that we haven't currently got a wine from, but I know that we do usually list probably for about half the year, Garnachas from Mentrida. It's just north of Madrid, and they're very distinctive in their character, completely different to this style. They're often described as sort of the kind of Nebbiolo of Spain. So they've got quite a sort of savory and floral character, and they've got a much punchier structure. Then, of course, what Spain does really well is Rosado, and Garnacha, as it plays around the world. Grenache is a brilliant grape variety for pinks. We love two styles of Spanish pink. One is the kind of style that comes from Rioja, like the Muga one, which I noticed, and I think someone's drinking this evening. I'm sure I saw it just pop up, which is like a very nice, elegant style. But then the Navarra rosés, there's one we've got called Scenario de
Saria.
that's it, Saria, which is really deep in color. It's a rosé, but it's almost like a red wine, but it's such a different taste to the southern French styles of rosé. But yeah, such is the versatility of this grape variety. It doesn't just make good red wines, but it also makes fantastic pinks around the world.
Mm. Mm. No, this is delicious. I mean, I think I'm quite spoilt for choice here, but with these four open in front of me. Although we're having pasta, a simple pasta, but we're having a really nice sort of chicken and chorizo tomorrow evening with friends. So I suspect some of the remains of these bottles may get consumed with that, and I can report back on their suitability. But and I noticed somebody else was eating pork and chorizo this evening, or chorizo this evening, so very very suited indeed. So no, that's great. So that's our first wine of the evening, which is the El Mago from Frank Massar in Terra Alta in Catalonia. We're going to hop across the border now, hop over the Pyrenees or round the change railway gauge as we cross back into France, and we're going to talk about Katie Jones's Grenache Noir, which Pierre is just opening at the moment. I can see him struggling with the bottle.
I am struggling.
But so I'm just going to tip a little bit of Katie's wine into the glass. I've got it here. This is the Domaine Jones Grenache Noir, which this year is a Vin de France. Sometimes it can be a Côte Catalan, but this year it's a Vin de France, which tells me that Katie's taken it from her vineyards dotted around the area. Now, French Grenache, as I said, it spread up from further south in Aragon and came up. It's in France. It's often just been a grape for blending. We'll find it in the Côte du Rhône. You'll find a lot of it in Châteauneuf du Pape, in the Côte du Rhône village. and the like, and even down in the Languedoc and Fitou and all around these areas, you'll find Grenache, and very often you'll find it blended in. It's one of the 13 permitted varieties in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, etc. But it does make, even in these areas, a really good single varietal. If Pierre was talking about the rosados, the rosés of Tavel and Lirac tend to be Grenache focused as well, and delicious they are too. But here, Katie, who is down, she's down in the Languedoc, in the southern area of the Languedoc, and I'm just going to share my screen with you here, just to bring up the map of exactly where she is, and make sure I've got the right map. Here we go. So we're going to here we are in the south of France. So you can see that the entire Languedoc stretching from virtually from Nîmes in the northeast there, all the way down to Fitou and Limoux in the southwest, just before it becomes, you'll see, if you see those dotted lines just below Fitou, that's the start of Roussillon and the Côte Catalane. And then where I've circled on the right here is the AOC Fitou. I've put it, is pretty much where Touchon, which is the village that Katie lives in, is pretty much in the middle of all that. So she's got vineyards dotted around in Fitou and in Languedoc, and over the border in Roussillon too. Katie started her project in 2008. She'd been living before then. She'd been living in Paziol, which is a tiny little village down in that area. About 500 people who live there, and she worked for 16 years for the local Montouche cooperative, very much in the offices, and decided, I suspect marrying a vigneron probably helped, but decided to buy a vineyard in 2008, and not just any vineyard. Katie specializes in vineyards that here she is with her tools in hand and in her trusty 2CV. Katie specializes in vineyards which are miles away from anywhere, that are very old. The vines are very old, so they yield absolutely brilliant fruit, but it's darned difficult to farm. But she's made a bit of a speciality of that. She bought her first vineyard in 2008. Her first vintage was 2009. The society have been following her since the start. And she and her late husband, Jean-Marc, made an amazing effort in these vineyards to bring these wines to fruition. Grenache she has, I think, 8 or 9 different varieties, some of them quite rare. She has Grenache Blanc, Grenache Rouge. We are only tasting reds tonight. She also has what's, she says, unkindly called the hairy Grenache, or Yadonner Pelut, which is the local Catalan or Occitan name for the grape variety. It's got a very, very furry leaves. The grape itself isn't hairy at all, but the leaves are pretty furry. And basically, from that, she makes excellent wines. First, these wines were made in the Vatican. When I say that, her cellars were in the Rue du Vatican. So the place was called the Vatican, and now she makes her wines in the station, because Touchon used to have a station, used to have a train that went there in the sort of late 19th and early 20th century, and she took over that old station and has turned it into a winery, and an amazing. I think you have to go there and see it to believe it. Some of you may have even adopted one of Katie's old vines. She's had a very successful adoption. I think a bit like adopting an animal at a zoo. You can also adopt a vine with Katie. I have a vine. She's called Adelaide. She's an old Grenache vine, and she's doing very well. I get photographs and updates regularly. So, but this particular wine, this is Grenache Noir. As I said, Katie has vineyards dotted around the place. So this is actually a vin de France, which tells you that she wanted to break the rules. It's not all from one appellation, and because it crosses over probably, I haven't checked this with her, we're talking Fitou and into the Roussillon and then into the general Languedoc area. I think you just have to call it a vin de France which is the relatively new term for a mishmash of grapes from any appellation in France and put together, which for me is about time too, really. The French appellation rules are very strict, and this kind of allowed the French to act like the Italians in winemaking, in that in the French appellation, if it says it, you must do it. In the Italian appellations, if it doesn't say it, then of course you can do it. It's not a problem.
And even if it does say it, then the Italians like breaking rules anyway. So
yeah, as my Italian winemaking friends would say. But this is when I was sniffing these earlier before we started, and I just sort of I got blackberry jam on buttered toast. I just thought it was fantastic. There is a little bit of oat going on there, but the tiniest.
Yeah, and there's some nice comments actually popping up, which I think nail it. So more depth and structure goes better with the pork. I'd agree. I think this is definitely more food worthy than the first wine. Nicely rounded, bright finish. The first wine was like Beaujolais with herbs, and this has a herby character too, in addition to the fruit. Lovely and long. Yeah, it's definitely a fuller, quite complete style of Grenache. Yeah, it's got really, really good intensity. It kind of jumps out of the glass. It's interesting that obviously I was doing a bit of research this afternoon, so I didn't know that Grenache was France's second most planted grape variety, red grape variety, after Merlot. I suspect that's because it is and has been seen a bit as a bit of a workhorse variety. One of the viticultural challenges with Grenache is it's very, very vigorous, so it grows very quickly, and it puts a lot of its vigor, its energy into two things. One, the canopy, and secondly, into high yields in terms of a number of bunches per vine. And so controlling yields, and actually the important thing here is that Grenache as a grape variety is a very thin-skinned grape variety. And the higher the yield, the lower the ratio of skin to pulp or skin to juice. And skin is where the flavor of, that's what basically what contributes most to the flavor in wine. So controlling yields is really important, and there's two ways to do that. You can do that through various sort of methods of vineyard management, and the other way is to focus on very old vines. So I'm often asked, what do old vines bring to a wine? Well, with specific grape varieties, basically what they bring to the wine is that an older vine produces fewer bunches of grapes. And because it produces fewer bunches of grapes, the grapes it does produce are generally incredibly healthy and very, very full of flavor, with really good levels of flavor and skin, the skin to pulp ratio. Yeah, so I think this is why Katie's always been onto a good thing with Grenache, is that she's focused on old vines, old vineyards, because they naturally contribute this sort of extra depth and concentration.
I think down in that part of France, there's a lot of cooperatives, a lot of vignerons who make their wine grow their grapes for other people and the like, and they like to grow as much as possible to get as much cash in as possible. So there's an awful lot of grubbing up of old vineyards and planting of new ones and the like, and that's something that Katie she does totally the reverse. She's buying up these old vineyards so in order for that not to happen. I know she has some opposition locally to that. I think she's become more accepted in the area, but I know in 2013 a jealous vandal went into her winery and basically turned the taps on so that all of her white wine just disappeared down the drain one night.
Yeah,
which is,
it's
but
terrible.
absolutely, despite that, she's come back fighting, and the quality of her wines is absolutely amazing. I do remember that happening because I remember Martha. I think we helped out by paying Katie for in advance for her next crop, so that she wasn't going to be out of money. That's something that
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
very, yeah. But yeah, I think it's a great wine. It's got depth. I'm seeing some notes. It's got depth and fruit, but it's still got sort of a herbaceous edge to it as well. It's got a really sort of, I don't know what it would be, sort of dried herbs on the edge of that sort of.
Yeah.
Just a lovely savoury edge. It's depth of fruit with a savoury edge, which is
Yeah.
what makes it so food worthy, as you said.
And before we move away from France, also just worth highlighting another arm to Grenache's versatility is, of course, it is the great variety behind the wonderful Vendoux naturels that are made in Bagnols and Moret, which are just, some of the greatest sort of sweet fortified wines that are coming out of France. Very long aging, and I guess it's almost like France's answer to port, but it's slightly lower alcohol, and they're wonderful wines. Again, just shows how Grenache, yeah, deserves to be regarded as a noble grape variety, even though it isn't in academic wine circles.
No, I agree. I mean, you're right. So the alcohol, you're talking 15 or 16%, whereas port, you're talking around about the 20% mark.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can drink just a little bit more Vendoux Natural than you can of port at once. And of course, don't forget that it's also quite a part of the Australian fortified wine scene
Of
as
course.
well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got the Rutherglen Muscats, but also I think we do the wine we do, which is the Uncle Joe, the one with the wise
The
one,
wise,
wise
the
wine.
wise one, Tawny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's got a whole bunch of those. It's got Video and Grenache
Yeah.
and Muscat and all that sort of thing. So yeah, they do. There's a lot of it going on down there. It is a great grape. I think you could do an Oxford Union debate and stand very much on the side of pushing Grenache into the noble grape varieties, because I think for too long it's been under the radar. I was looking on our list. We've got lots of wines that contain Grenache, lots of blends and the like. But when you look down, we've got 59 wines on the list that are solely Grenache at the moment, whether it be from France, from Spain, from Australia, from South America, wherever it be. So yeah, we're certainly flying that flag, definitely. Okay, so that's 2 wines down, 2 to go. We mentioned Australia a little while ago. So one of our favorite new suppliers that Freddie discovered in the last few years is Whistler Wines, run by Sam Pfeiffer. If you want to know why it's called Whistler Wines, it's because Pfeiffer, I think, is the German the German word for Whistler. Therefore, hence the name of the winery. But Pierre, if you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
Whistler Wines in the Barossa Valley.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, based in the Barossa Valley, which, Barossa is home to some of the oldest vineyards in Australia, notably sort of Shiraz, Grenache, Mourvèdre, and Whistler Wines. So they were founded in 1994 by Sam's dad, Martin Pfeiffer. And he previously was Penfold's head vineyard manager. Actually, when he created his own estate and planted his own vines, he took the Shiraz cuttings for his vineyard from one of Granger's vineyards that actually was behind the great sort of Grange, that's Penfold's vineyards, the Great Grange one of the great vineyards that contributed to Grange. Yeah, there's a picture of Sam It's a complete sort of family run business. So Sam and his wife Kelsey run the show, and it has really kind of shifted and evolved under Sam's kind of guidance and leadership. The wine is made by Michael Corbett, who is there on the right, who is an incredibly talented winemaker, making wines principally in South Australia. He does some of his own wines from McLaren Vale as well,
which we stocked, don't we? The Vanguardist.
the Vanguardist wines, yeah. Yeah, you know, Whistler are quite small. When Freddie came across them, I think it was about 4 years ago. They had never exported to the UK. They had no, it wasn't on their radars. Freddie got introduced to Sam through another winemaker that we work through, Mac Forbes, who's based in Melbourne. Mac said you should go and check this guy out. But yeah, they'd never exported to the UK. I think we're still the only people that import Whistler wines. And, you know, they have, being family run, actually, there's a bit of a theme here, isn't there, with Frank, Katie, and Sam. Yeah, all family run, take real great care, very disciplined in the vineyard. And yeah, one thing I wanted to sort of just mention very briefly was we have actually, the Wine Society is actually funded directly and supported Whistler Wines with some work that they're doing in the vineyard, which is basically they're moving to a more regenerative approach in their vineyard. Part of that means tilling or ploughing the land less and using more biodiversity in the vineyard by having a range of cover crops. And we have something called our Climate and Nature Fund, which we do once a year. We started last year, and Whistler Wines were one of the first. They were in the first group to win funding. They have to fill out a very long application form and explain exactly what they wanted to do. And so we're funding a 3-year project, which is helping them trial alternative methods of undervine weed management. And those methods avoid chemicals and tilling, ploughing. It's quite interesting. They've got 4 trials going on in different parts of the vineyard. One where the vineyard has no cover crop, one where it has no cover crop or mulch, another part which has only cover crop, another part which only has mulch, and then the final area that has a mixture of the two. And so they're assessing the kind of assessing the impact of that, which is quite interesting. So this is this wine's called Double Back Barossa Valley Grenache, 100% Grenache. They also do a GSM, a Grenache Shiraz Mourvèdre. And yeah, I think this wine is it's just got a lovely sort of open, inviting character to it. It's quite plush. It's got this nice sort of sweetness of fruit. It's very different to the kind of traditional Grenaches that were coming or still do come out of Barossa, of which we still list. It's not a big kind of chocolatey blockbuster style of Barossa red. And I think you know, initially when we started selling this wine last year, we did get feedback from it's sort of split members. Actually, we had sort of members that were loving it and adoring it, but other members who felt, I think, less satisfied by it. And actually, I think that less satisfaction is probably coming from an expectation that this would be, you know, typical Barossa Grenache, but it's absolutely not setting out to do that. It's a kind of different style. and we think it has its place alongside the bigger styles of Barossa reds that also exist in Barossa and McLaren Vale. It's 13.9% alcohol, which again is much lighter. A lot of most Barossa wines now are sort of hitting 15.5%. Not that that's a bad thing. As long as the wines are in balance with their alcohol, then that's fine. But obviously, it might be, a factor in your choice of wine. We know that members do choose wines based on their alcohol level, both whether they're high or more modest levels. But yeah, I love this wine, and I think it's a good expression of a sort of modern style of red wine coming out of Australia.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely wine. Interesting, and again, it's one of those wines with an odd name. One might ask why it's called Doubleback. There was a comment earlier on the chat about how they're enjoying Whistler's rosé, his dry as a bone rosé, which is
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Again made from Grenache. Apparently, when they were making they planted some Grenache in 2001, and back in the 2014 vintage, they were harvesting Grenache for the rosé. And then 3 days after the pick, they suddenly noticed that there was an entire row of vines was still hanging. They'd missed out a row number 17, which is why you'll see the label number 17 in the hand on the sticker number 17 on the hands on the label of the wine. Sam's dad denied all responsibility. And so what they did is they went back to the vines, picked it, and just threw the wine threw the bunches whole bunch into the blend and carried on. And that actually added something a little bit different, a bit more freshness, a bit more sort of liveliness to the wine. And so they still do that now. They decided that would be a great idea. Let's try it with a red, and they still do that now today. There is I think it's about 20 or 30%, up to 20 or 30% is whole bunch. So I think it's a great story, and it created the label with a pair of glasses and the number 17 on the label too. So I do love the and it's not just the Whistler as well. The Australians' penchant for an amusing label, as Chester Osborne used to say, winemaking is a serious business, but once it's in the bottle, that's when the fun starts. Whether you're drinking it or whether you're looking at it, and it's very much the case here with Whistler wines as well. I think so. Third, I'm just looking at this the text sheet here. 20% whole bunch, which gives the wine a sort of extra bit of crunch and lift on the palate. But it is it's a lovely wine. Again, there's a thread going through all these wines of flavour. There's a sort of a light herbiness over the top of the wines and the fruit, which just makes it just so appealing on the nose.
Fleshy, isn't it? Nice and fleshy and soft.
Soft, and because it's a thin-skinned grape, you don't get heavy tannins with it at all. The tannins that are there are already from the word go are already soft and velvety. You're right, and it just absolutely hits the spot, I think. Yeah. Okay, well, that's our third wine out of four. Now we're going to go back to a different. We're staying in the southern hemisphere, but over the other side of the Pacific, and we're going to South America, and we're going to hit Chile. And these are our wines from Undurraga. We've been dealing with Undurraga. Toby Morrill has been buying wines from Undurraga for quite some time now. Toby was a big fan of a then young winemaker in the early 2000s called Rafael Urejola. And Rafael was a very creative winemaker, working with Viña, making some fantastic Sauvignon Blancs and Pinot Noirs and Chardonnay in Lledo, which is a lovely sort of cool climate area of Chile. And Rafael moved to Undurraga which got under new ownership. It's been going since the 1880s. It was winning awards for its wines, national awards for its wines since the 1910s, which for a wine such as this from South America, winning international awards was pretty darn good going. It had production up in the hundreds of thousands of bottles in the 1960s. So all guns blazing. It was taken over in 2006, and the new owner decided he loved the amount they were making. He wanted a much more qualitative approach, and he poached Rafael from Viñaleda. And Rafael he's an expert in all the terroirs that there are around Chile. He really knows his subject, and so much so that Undurraga launched a wine series called Terroir Hunter, or TH. So if you see TH in front of any of the Undurraga wines, it's because they're wines. They're not necessarily wines from their base, but they're wines from all over Chile. They've got about 5 or 6 different wineries in Chile and bases and estates. This one that we're talking about here, Cauquenes, the Cauquenes is a town in the south of the Maule Valley region, which is a region which is to the south. So you're getting down towards the south. So you're getting into cooler areas, ostensibly, if anywhere is cool in Chile. Chile is an amazing country because the length of it, you get everything from desert at the top to subarctic at the bottom. But the wine growing area in the middle is something to behold. I'm just going to share the screen once more and bring up my map just to remind me where it all is. Here we go. So yes, so here's the Maule Valley. So you'll see the length of Chile up to the left, which is a darn long country. I think it's about 3,000 kilometers long, or over that. And then in the middle of it, you've got this winemaking area, which itself is pretty darn big. The breadth, can you say breadth of grape varieties when it's so thin and narrow? Yes, of course you can. There's an awful lot of wine regions, as you can see from the color code. And here is the green area, which is Valle del Maule. It's the largest single appellation area in Chile. And if we look to the right on the map, you've got the purple area now. It's changed from green to purple, but that is the Maule area, and Cauquenes is in that bottom left-hand corner. So there's quite a lot of coastal influence here. Chile is fantastic for getting the onshore breezes and in the mornings, and the offshore breezes in the evening. So whatever the temperature, it's regulated by those cool winds, either coming down from the Andes or coming off the Humboldt Current in the Pacific. So that's what makes Chile such an excellent area for growing grapes. Here's a picture of Rafael himself. He didn't, like me, he didn't have grey hair. We got greying hair 20 odd years ago, but we all get there in the end. And a lovely vineyard of a picture of a sunset over their Maule vineyards there as well. This wine, Grenache, is not a grape that's necessarily associated with Chile. Of course, there is the Chilean Merlot and the Carmenère and the Sauvignon and Chardonnays and Pinots, but actually Grenache is a grape that does very well. Rhone varietals do very well. Undurraga in particular, they have a whole range of Rhone varietals in this area. Some of you may know our Cauquenes sort of entry-level wines, where you've got Marsanne Viognier blends and Grenache and Carignan blends and that sort of thing going on. And here we've got a single vineyard or single estate Grenache, which I'm just going to pour for myself here. The great thing about this is that despite the fact that Raphael's influence is relatively new here, he took Garnacha and grafted it onto an 80-year-old rootstock already in the ground from the variety País. So the roots are already there and getting all the nutrients coming up. So it's a new grafting, not a new planting. And he's come up with what I think is an absolute gem. So it's Coronel del Maule is the vineyard, which is south of Cauquenes. So you're right on the border area of that. I'm just going to unshare my screen and come back to life with you. It is just 10% whole bunch pressed. So we've got, again, that just gives it that little that edge and that lift. 500-litre tanks. So it's small tanks. And yeah, Jonathan's saying it's full-bodied. Never would have thought that was Grenache. Yeah, I think that's is part of Raphael's skill is finding exactly the right terroir, exactly the right soil in which to plant these wines. And then
I think this is this is really it's an impressive wine. It's made in it's quite an aspirational wine, and and it kind of delivers. It's also the first wine in the lineup we've got where we've got new oak playing a role. But such is the quality of the fruit, the depth and the richness here, that new oak really enhances this wine. It's got a lovely kind of hint of vanilla and a sort of creamy character. I mean, it's 2019, so it's 6 years of age. Doesn't show it. I was just looking on our website. Our drink date is to 2030. I think it will easily age to 2030. And I think it will carry on improving. I mean, it's quite astonishing.
I think so. It spent 16 months in oak. Not all of them were new. Some of them were up to 5 years of usage. So you get that. It's not overbearing new oak. It's a lovely edge to it. I agree. Stephen is saying stunning, full-bodied, rich but still elegant. However, shame about the heavy bottle. Yes, Pierre.
Totally.
Pierre and I were saying that. As Jancis would say, it's an SHB. It's a silly heavy bottle.
But it's I mean, in defense here, I mean, this was bottled obviously in 2019. I've no idea what the recent bottlings are, but I think this is horrendously heavy. We are on a mission to get our producers to reduce bottle weights, and the good news is that it seems to be working. We've managed I just saw we've just sort of run the data for the last 12 months, and our average bottle weights now across our range have come down by 29 grams to 438 grams. So all of our own label wines, society wines, are below 420. 420 is anything below 420 is regarded as a lighter bottle. So we're working on it. And yeah, when I see Toby, our buyer, next week, I will certainly be pointing out. I'm hoping that he has got this wine on his radar, because it's just crazy and it's pointless. Just taking out the reducing down to that 438 grams in this last year, based on the number of bottles we sell in a year, that's taken out 250 tons of carbon from our carbon footprint. So it really makes a difference.
Jonathan's got a very good use. Yeah, absolutely. He's got a very good use of recycling these bottles, use them as weights in the gym.
Yeah.
Just every morning, sort of swing them around and like the old use them as Indian clubs.
And get rid of the stupid capsule. Absolutely. Yep. Hopefully you've noticed that we're doing that we've done that pretty much on all our own label wines, where you can do it. Some appellation rules don't allow it, but in general, I think 95% of ours have no capsules. Yeah, we are. That is currently our kind of next on the agenda. We are. There's a new packaging tax that the business has to pay, which is related to bottle weights. But as of next year, the packaging tax also includes things like capsules and the type of paper that the labels are using, the type of ink. So Yeah, capsules play no role apart from making the bottle look good. And historically, they were there because they hid inconsistency in levels of wine in bottles. Because back in the old days, it was not as sort of technologically sound in terms of the bottling. It was very manual. But yeah, you don't need the capsules.
No. All that having been said, it's a darned excellent wine. I've,
It's a
I've still got it.
seriously good
I've
wine.
still got it in my palate. I last had it in my mouth a couple of minutes ago, and it's still there. There's
Yeah.
a richness to it, but there's still, there's a weight to it. But I was going to say there's a weight to it, but there's a lightness to it. But it's that sort of freshness, if you like. The weight is in there, and there's an envelope of that freshness and herbiness and everything that's all around it. But it's got a great depth. I mean, this is the wine that's got most alcohol out of all the ones we've tasted, 14.6. So a little bit ahead of one of the others. But it's a fantastic. It's a fantastic example. For those of you who want to know, Cauquenes actually means upland goose. So it's the South Americans do like naming their wines after birds. We have Teru in Uruguay. We've got the upland goose here, the Cauquenes, which is a wild goose that lives in the plains that stretch from Chile through into Patagonia down in the southern part of the country. They say they call it that because it's a rare breed, like old vines in Chile. So they wanted to bring that together. But for me, I'd be really hard if somebody said which is your favorite of these four. I'd be really hard pushed. Perhaps we could just. Now the last time I tried this, I lost connection, so I'm not going to do a poll. But if on the chat people can tap in what their favorite wine of the evening was, then I can come up with an unscientific result for tomorrow morning when I send the email around with the video link to this. But there's twos, there's fours, there's ones, there's Katie, there's a few. So it's going through the piece. So there's lots of favourites. It's nice to see that everybody's got a favourite, and every favourite has got somebody. Every wine's got somebody, which is
And it's
fantastic.
so great that they're so different, aren't they? As why, they've still
Yeah,
got that. They've got the Grenache soul, all of them, but they're different.
they are. It's when you sniff them now after they've had time in the glass
Mm.
as well. You've got grassiness, you've got licorice, you've got almost like a sort of sherbet or sort of barley sugar, and you've got all sorts of stuff going on there. It's absolutely fascinating. Well, we've timing wise, we're just about there, a couple of minutes to 7. So thank you everybody for participating. Thank you to Pierre for joining. Thank you to the 4 winemakers, to Frank, to Katie, to Michael, and to Raphael for producing such excellent wines. And hopefully that will encourage you, if you're not a Garnacha file already, encourage you to try a little bit more, whether a single varietal or a blend with Grenache, because there is a case for it to be elevated to the noble grapes, I feel. But we hope you all have a very good weekend. Cheers to you, Pierre. I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you,
And
Ewan, and thank you everyone for joining us.